I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about, do avoidants care when you're gone?
Do they?
Do they?
Before we get into it, I did want to say that Craig and I are available for coaching sessions. So if you would like to talk about your situation one-on-one with one of us, you can do so by going to the website and booking from there.
Yep. We're happy to help you out because we know how confusing it can be in a situation, especially if you're dealing with an avoidant.
Oh, yeah.
And man, if you're dating an avoidant, probably every fiber in your being is gonna wonder if they even care about you or care when you're gone. They care that you're in no contact or there's a breakup. And sometimes people wonder if their ex even cared about them at all. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people will feel like, I don't even know if they ever really cared about me. They doubt it so much.
Yeah, and this can be such a painful feeling because more than likely you care a lot. More than likely you are suffering a lot and in a lot of emotional pain because of this breakup. And you wonder, is this even affecting them?
Yeah.
Is this even reciprocated?
So we understand why you feel like an avoidant might not care. And that's why we're going to talk about it today.
Yep. The first point that we want to make is that avoidants are built different. Okay, this can be very difficult for many people to understand, but once they start to learn more and more and more about the avoidant attachment style, something clicks. Mm-hmm. That's what they are like. That's exactly what they are like. So many of you find it even uncanny that some of the descriptions that we give here on the channel describe your ex so well. They have a very different way of thinking. They have a very different attitude and approach towards relationships. And so you have to remind yourself of that. You know, care, that idea of caring for someone looks very different for someone who's avoidant. Mm-hmm. They have an ability to compartmentalize, to suppress. They've been doing this from a young age, so they are used to it. You know, whenever something difficult happens in their life, it could be even something traumatic, it can be something emotionally overwhelming, they set it aside. There was a study that I saw recently that was talking about how those who had more avoidant attachment styles, they use more of their frontal lobe, the thinking part of their brain, whenever they're faced with an emotional situation. So they're quite literally able to use different parts of their brains in different situations than other people.
It's almost like they're putting their emotions in limbo. Mm-hmm. It's a really difficult feeling to describe, but you can see it when they're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Right, and they also process events differently. You know, it might take them a while to really think about the emotional impact of a decision like a breakup. Mm-hmm. And they also experience separation elation at a different rate.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talk about separation elation quite a bit on the channel as well, too, when we talk about the stages of a breakup, where somebody finally makes that decision, they feel good about it, they're almost on this high after the breakup, they feel so good, and you're confused. I'm hurting so bad. How can you be feeling good? How can you be going out and partying and having fun? You know, for somebody who's more avoidant, it takes time for that grief to set in and longer than it would for somebody who's more anxious, typically, longer than it would for somebody who's more secure, typically.
Now, if you think about it with the separation elation, think about their relationship dynamics with their caregivers. It was probably unhealthy, they were ignored, neglected, abandoned. Maybe they had parents that would yell at them all the time or mistreat them and make them shut down. So imagine that. Imagine you're getting yelled at as a kid and your parents are screaming at you and they yelling and throwing things and, you know, it's an awful, tense feeling. And then they leave. What are you going to feel? Relieved, right? So it's probably correlated to that in some ways, that the person that was causing them stress through these obligations and responsibilities and having to worry about that pressure of having to worry about somebody else is gone.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you also had to be yelling and screaming at them. It's just the association that they make with really close relationships.
Yeah, but probably they are anxious, and one person's anxious, one's avoidant. So the anxious person is yelling to try and get close to them and understand them. But yelling is yelling for them, and they're just like shutting down.
Right, right. And their independence was able to save them in many situations growing up. You know, they had to take care of themselves. In some situations, they have very neglectful caregivers where they had to learn to depend on themselves to get their needs met. And so once other people aren't a part of the mix, they feel a lot more in control of their lives, and that's a good feeling for them initially.
Yep.
Right? Initially.
Yep. I've heard so many avoidants say over the years, I can't count on anybody else. I can only trust myself. I can't trust anybody else. And the anxious person takes that very personally. They're like, well, I would never. I was always good to you.
Right.
It's, again, this is that trauma that they experience. Now, I'm not trying to justify bad behavior, because some people are like, you're just trying to justify their bad abusive behavior. No, I'm not. Okay, I'm just trying to help you understand it so you can figure out how to navigate and what to do here.
Right.
But it's normal for the avoidant to shut down, be alone, withdraw, focus on themselves, that feeling of just kind of decompressing slowly. They decompress much slower. It's a slow process.
Right.
Where, like, we're talking about that emotional limbo where they're kind of slowly shutting down. But it feels to you like they're not going to be bothered by it. They're never going to miss you. They're never going to care that you're gone. They're never going to feel that grief. Can they escape it?
No, you can't escape grief. And avoidants still attach. You know, just because they have this way of relating to others doesn't mean that they don't attach at all. And you can't just delete an attachment from your system. That's not how we work. We're not computers. We're not robotic, even if sometimes our emotions feel that way.
Yeah.
And avoidants are notorious for struggling to express their emotions. They really, really have a hard time with expressing what I cared for you would even look like. You know, they struggle to understand it within themselves. And they tend to see showing emotion as more of a weakness. This might have been something that they picked up growing up. This might have been something that they had to learn.
And they probably were told it.
Right. Or they showed weakness and it was weaponized against them.
Yeah.
So they are less likely to even show that they did care about the relationship, even if they did. And they tend to hide those negative feelings to protect themselves. So those negative feelings get put away into a nice little box to, you know, be seen at a much later date, you know, whenever it surfaces naturally, but nobody can escape that grief.
Yeah, when you leave them alone, that's when it allows them to kind of start to process that stuff.
Right.
But if you keep reaching out, they have to process each new time you've reached out, as opposed to process losing you, which takes longer for them.
Right. And avoidants still desire connection. They still crave it. The issue is that they tend to push it away. And this is a very conflicting experience for someone who has an avoidant attachment style that you may choose to participate in or you may choose not to. So we're giving you this information to be more informed moving forward if you did want to make this relationship work. Because I know many of you have an avoidant that you love dearly in your life and you're like, what do I do with this?
Yeah. And so, you know, as you're wondering and thinking about things like, do they really care about me? Do they even care that I'm gone? Do they miss me? You're kind of hoping that they're going to reach out and say, I miss you, I love you, I want to see you. And they rarely do that. They are usually going to do something which I call the indirect direct approach. They will indirectly message you. Sometimes it's about something practical. Men typically, hey, I wanted to come fix that sink that I had promised I would fix, and I never did it. And you're like, what the heck does this mean? And they're like, hey, I know I had promised to help you with this thing, and so I'm going to come over. What day are you free? And there they are at your house, friendly, acting like nothing happened. And you're like devastated, like, what the heck is going on here? This is what they do because they're more practical in how they express their feelings.
Right? And it can also be cryptic. Sometimes some of their messages don't really make sense, and you're left confused of, do you care? Do you not care?
They're
How do you
vague
see
and,
me?
and fluffy, and it's like, what the heck does this even mean?
Yeah, especially with those indirect directs. They'll mention, we talk about the cat all the time. They'll mention the cat. They'll mention, maybe something that had happened in the relationship.
I miss the cat.
Dipping their toe in their water because it's too dangerous to be directly vulnerable and emotional with you. So that's something that you'd see often. Being with somebody who has more of an avoidant attachment style can be extremely painful if you are one of their loved ones, if you are a significant other of them. This can be really difficult because you're constantly doubting their affection towards you, their feelings towards you. And it can leave you just in this state of confusion, this state of feeling rejected by their distancing over and over and over again. So if you find yourself in this situation, we wanted to leave you with some tips on how to care for yourself.
Yeah.
And
you gotta care for yourself.
You have to. You have to. And we're hoping that this video has helped explain a bit more about how their process is different from yours. So we always talk about putting the lens back on yourself, focusing back on your own process, where you are with your grief. Just because they're grieving differently, just because their grief might be postponed or compartmentalized or whatever it may be, it doesn't have any effect on how you process your own grief. You may be expressing your emotion in a healthy way. You may have a good support system that you can talk to. You may be able to cry, and that's a beautiful thing. I know it's kind of sappy, but I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to express those emotions. So just because your ex is behaving in a certain way doesn't mean that you have to as well.
Yep. It's totally understandable to be in no contact, wondering if they've ever cared about you or thinking about you, but the reality is they do. They do think about you, they do miss you, they do care about you. And many of you have treated that person better than anyone else has ever treated them. And they tell you that. Well, it's confusing when they're not reaching out, but they certainly can't not think about you and miss that you're gone from their life. They might not be able to do it, they may not be ready to do it, but it doesn't mean that they don't care.
Yeah.
I've had so many avoidants tell me about all the things they did, and it didn't look like they cared, but they admitted, I thought about them every day. I mean, we hear it all the time.
It happens. And if I were you and you're watching this video, I would learn a lot more about avoidant attachment style. It can help you just have a better understanding of it, and it can also help you not blame yourself. Many of us are, oh my gosh, did I overwhelm them? Oh my gosh, did I do this? Am I the root cause of all this? While yes, maybe some of your anxious behavior did have a part to play here, understanding that this is a part of how they operate, this is how they function, can help you not take things as personally, can help you be able to move forward from this.
So there's a lot to think about here. We have tons of videos on the avoidant attachment style to understand them better. But hopefully this one's been helpful to you. And of course, if you want to get our help personally, you could do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Coach Victoria is also available for Skype coaching.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name at the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.